So it's the time of year when Arctic ice, the beautiful big white King Protea, has decided to bloom in the garden. Now later on today, I'll be doing a series of floral designs to show you how to bring those flowers indoors and some options on how to make them work. But first up, before we cut the flower, let's talk a little bit about pruning. Now, instead of cutting just enough from the top of this plant to give us a stem for our floral design, we're actually going to prune this as we would in the landscape. The result being a much happier plant, much healthier plant, and one that's going to provide a lot more flowers in following seasons. Now, King Protea is a little bit different when it comes to pruning. Other varieties, you would follow the stem all the way down looking for the lowest green leaf, and then you'd prune 6 to 8 inches above that, never into the exposed or old wood. Now, King Protea is a lot more fire adapted, so it's used to being pretty severely abused out in the landscape and is able to bounce back from that scenario. So for us, instead of pruning just enough on top to give us enough for the floral design later on today, we're going to prune way down low here, and there's some specific things you need to be looking for before we tackle that. So where to cut? I mean, if you were to cut in this location just above the knuckle, maybe these would activate and you'd get a couple of new growth points, but I've had examples where that just doesn't work. So I'm usually coming below the knuckle, and down in this area here, we've got a whole 6 inches of 1, 2, 3, multiple growth points. So if I was to do the prune right there on the angle, I could trigger all these different guys. Now that may seem like a really extreme cut, but that's how we do it to get a much fuller plant and a much more active plant that produces more flowers further on down the season. So grit your teeth, let's do it. Okay, on the angle, all the way through. I want a nice stem length for this guy, so I'm going to go just above the knuckle. Again on the angle, I'm going to take off all these leaves and snap them at this point. Okay, so flower's ready. It'll go into a bucket of clean water. The leftover material will go into the compost, and a little stumpy over here will go into a 24 by 24 inch big container, and it will be used as a stock plant. So you probably think I'm nuts, right? I've just sold you a perfectly healthy little plant, and here I am telling you to cut it to a nub. Let's go take a look at our stock plants that had exactly the same treatment, and I'll show you the benefits of what pruning at a young age can result in.
So we're out in the nursery now, and these are our King Protea stock plants. The plant we're looking at the moment is actually a white King Protea as well, from exactly the same crop as the one we just pruned inside. But boy, doesn't it look different. Let's zoom in for a closer look and we'll have a talk about it. Now, I knew from a relatively young age that this plant was actually a white King Protea. So it gave me the opportunity to prune when it was quite young. And then those growth nodes, those little guys right there, turned into these great hardy looking stems. With this branch, I've gone up to the first growth knuckle, and then I've come a little bit lower and pruned it off again on the angle. What that's done is triggered a new set of growth points down lower. These are now turning into branches.
So again, this plant was from exactly the same crop as the big one we just pruned inside. The difference being we pruned it when it was younger, so you have a much fuller plant a couple of years down the line. A fuller plant means more stems means more flowers for the home gardener or for the nurseryman. It means more opportunities to create more plants through propagation.